Welcome everyone to the second part of the solo Moria dungeon as a hunter. In today's video I'm going to show you how to do Skumfil, 16th Hall, and the Forge of Khazadum solo as a hunter on Treebeard at level 60. Obviously this video focuses on how to beat those dungeons solo, but it's also interesting for people that just want to understand the mechanics, which I will also highlight in this video. Feel free to also check out the first part of this video series where I showed how to beat the Grand Stairs, the Forgotten Treasury, and Khazadum as well solo as a hunter. There will also be some sort of link somewhere over there. Hopefully it works. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the video, feel free to like it. You can also subscribe me to see more of my future Lotro and other YouTube video updates. Well, and with that being said, let's jump right into the dungeons. Let's go. The first dungeon I'm gonna show you is how to do Skumfil left side.
They call Skumfil. Over the ages, the rotting pile of carcasses and filth that has accumulated there has also attracted many foul and disgusting creatures.
So in general, the ads you have to fight in Skumfil are some sort of, well, tedious. They will basically stun you, they will slow you, they will summon new creatures. It's a mess. What I want to say with that, basically, it's grindy. So the goal is basically to fight the least amount of mobs possible. So in Skumfil you can choose between two wings, either the left or the right side. On each side there will be a mini-boss, and well, basically the mini-boss you attack will determine which wing you go for. The left side has one of those bone creatures. On the right side we will see there is a bigger insect to fight. So a little bit of story for this dungeon, or at least the idea of this dungeon. So in this dungeon there is basically a competition between insects and those Caregrims. They're somehow trying to fight over the control of this place. In the very first room you will also see basically them fighting against each other. When you engage one of those fighting teams in the first room, then it's basically a 50-50 chance who will then win the fight and attack you after. But in this case, if you commit to the left side, you will basically start to attack the Caregrims. In the meantime, there's also, well, the end boss of each wing fighting against each other. That would be a huge insect queen versus a huge Caregrim boss. And yeah, we basically, on the left side, we eliminate the Caregrims. So in the end, what will happen is that the insect queen will win the fight and will be the end boss. So the technical part of clearing those sets is, yeah, I do this all in red basically and just try to burst away the Caregrims as fast as possible. So this is now basically, well, the second boss I could say. And, well, you can slow them, as well as his two rock crawlers, or how they are called. So here it's kind of important to just hit them with the skill low cut, and they will not really bother you. Low cut is a melee range skill from the hunter, as you can see here, that slows all of the targets hit. During this fight I basically focus on the boss and try to kill his two ads with the AoE. Okay, so this is the end boss, and as I said, this will be a big insect queen, which basically killed now the bigger Caregrim boss. Usually in the team, this boss has the mechanic that it summons smaller insects that can stun lock one of your allies, or yourself. When this happens, you have to kill the insect that keeps one of your allies stunned in order to free them from the stun. In our case, it's enough to just keep the boss a little bit away from you. This will also guarantee you that you don't get stunned as well, getting hit by the ads that she spawned. So we now move on to the right side, and in this case now we're going to aid the Kergrims.
Has also attracted many foul and disgusting creatures.
When going for this side, the right side, you will fight more of the insects on the way, which can be nasty sometimes, to be honest. I even managed to get killed by one of those. If you want to be on the safe side, just, well, maybe use the endurance stance a bit earlier. Not like me during this recording, but it is what it is. So we basically engage now the mini-boss on the right side, which is a bigger insect boss. The boss itself is not that strong, but I tried to keep it safe after dying to this adze and basically defeat her in blue. In general, blue is always the build you want to run when you, well, want to have a little bit more heal and flexibility. Before I engage the second boss, or, well, there will be multiple ones, we have to kill another duo of those insects, which is a bit easier this time. It's always sometimes a bit, yeah, tedious when they bury themselves for like 5 seconds. So, well, here you're basically gonna fight 5 of those bigger insects, and you definitely want to go blue for this. The strat here is to first kill the ones with lower HP as fast as possible. And then keep, well, going for some rounds and kiting them around, as well as the mini-ats that you can see that they spawn. They will also bury themselves for, well, a lot. In the end there will be 2 which have a little bit more HP, so it's a bit of a tankier fight to do. I think in total you have to basically grind down 600,000 HP on all of those combined. Eventually you succeed defeating all of those insects and you can move on to defeat the boss of the right wing. Well, that kinda sounded a bit wrong, I guess. So this boss is actually a challenge. And I will explain you why. So usually the hunter wins when he can fight against the melee boss that he can kite, right? Well, this guy is not a melee boss, as you can see. Additionally, he has a map-wide AoE that will hit you for around 4k. And he will constantly, when in line of sight, throw like rocks at you. So the real challenge here is the map-wide AoE, which does acid damage. And for this fight I usually have a blue skill where I use virtues that increase my tactical and physical mitigation as well as HP. Something like this. So this is a very slow fight, and also a very risky fight, as you can see on my H-bar here. You definitely want to be in endurance right from the get-go and keep Blood Arrow on cooldown, and spam as much quick shots as you need to. You will see me jumping around here, well, as if I don't do this all the time, but what I try to do here is, I basically try to run behind this little mountain so that I basically block the attack that he does to me, but at the same time I can still shoot at him. So interesting to say is, when you kill the boss on the left and the right side, they will both drop a key piece. If you have both pieces of this key, this will start your quest that will give you the full key. And with that key you can unlock the lower level of the dungeon. So as if Kergrims and insects are not enough, the lower level is full of spiders which will constantly respawn. And as you can see, there is also a huge spider boss, which is basically the challenge mode in this dungeon. So the boss itself is not that strong, but what's nasty is that she will constantly slow you, so kiting here is limited. Try to keep low cuts on as many targets as possible. This will negate the slow that you receive from the spider boss a little bit. Other than that, just grind down the boss, and when she phases, try to keep the slower spiders off you. She will also kick you around, make sure that you fight with something behind your back that you don't want to pull. And there she goes. And this was the first dungeon in this video, Skumfil, all wings, and even the challenge mod, which is this spider. So we now move on to the Forges of Khazadum. So, well, this dungeon has, well, a lot of mechanics, I would say. And I'm pretty sure most of you will just want to figure out how the hell I kill the second boss in this dungeon alone. I will show you it's easier than you think. But first of all, we have to grind through a bunch of ads to get to the first boss. So after killing this group, it will basically open two gates on the left and right side, as you can see here in the video. This will spawn additional enemies that you should defeat first. After defeating those enemies, you have to pick up one of those powder cats and bring it into one of those holes. It will then explode and basically seal it. You're gonna do this on the left and on the right side, basically. This will then open the middle gate, which lets you access then the first boss. So the first boss, you basically just kite him. He doesn't really have many mechanics, but he will spawn some enemies during the fight. He will spawn at around 70 and 40% of his health. In the middle of this room you can see a little tower, and on top of this tower there is some orc sappers. Those orc sappers will basically light the entire platform on fire, as you can see on the other side where I'm fighting. But just try to wait the fires and you should be fine. Also don't forget to do some AoE and low cut the ads he's going to summon. So when you run down on the left side you can, well, basically get to the second boss without fighting at all. The boss is now standing on a platform, and your job is to seal those entrances where those, basically those train trails come from. So the challenge here is to carry those powder kegs without getting hit into those holes to seal them. For that, always clear off the ads first and see that you don't, well, get caught by one of those bigger trolls. They will just stun you and you will lose the powder keg and have to do it again. So this is all nice, but after sealing 3 doors, he will summon 2 Elite Master Trolls that will chase you. Those trolls cannot be defeated, and yeah, somehow now you have to seal 3 more doors with those trolls. So the thing is, when you basically damage the trolls to around 80%, they will run into the center and get healed by the boss. You want to time it that both trolls are at the same time at around 90-80%. You can see in the video, this is the moment you're gonna get a powder keg and seal the 4th hole, basically. Seal the 5th hole, I basically just low cut when I run back from the 4th hole, get another powder keg and seal the 5th hole. And the 6th hole, you just, well, damage the trolls again to 90% each. They will run into the center, you get the powder keg and seal the last hole. When all of the holes are sealed, the boss will spawn and is ready to get attacked. The boss itself is not the problem, but one of his special skills are. When he says, feel the might of the black powder, we can either LOS him, so stand behind the pillar, or you get hit by a dot that you can only remove by one of those water jugs that you get from killing mobs in the dungeon. So other than that, all you want to do here is just kite them all around and focus on the boss. You cannot really kill the trolls, he will constantly heal them. And then in the end you have to kill the trolls as well, which sometimes, well, it feels like they take longer than the boss itself. On the way to the 3rd boss, there's a few ads that you're gonna kill, which, well, it's kinda easy. Well, the 3rd boss I basically go red and just, well, burn him away. Just make sure that you don't get hit by those fire streams. So, the end boss is very tedious. And as a hunter, well, I like to use fire or light oil. Unfortunately, the boss absorbs 100% of fire and light damage. So I'm gonna kill myself and get rid of the fire oil that I used in this first attempt. And I'm back without any fire or light oil applied. So you will first kill 2 of those trolls. And after a few seconds, the boss will also be attackable. The boss itself is very, well, it's not fun to fight him. He doesn't do any damage, he doesn't take any damage. It's a huge grind. As you could see in the video, when he casts this blue light beam towards you, he will get a, well, he will take a little bit more damage for like 15 seconds. This is the moment you want to use Burn Hot and just give him all that you can give him. He will phase then and bring a few more trolls towards you. Other than that, he constantly has a buff up that reduces the damage he takes, basically. But he still seems to get enough damage from dots, so make sure to keep Heartseeker and Barbed Arrow applied on him. Since he basically will stand there like a tool, you also want to be in endurance stance and heal up during the fight a little bit. So, he will phase a second time and, well, after a while he will bring another troll that you can kill. So important is the third time he's going to phase. This is around at 30%. He will then basically light the entire place up. He will also bring a few trolls towards you, which you should focus first. So there will be those fire bursts that will now basically circle around the entire platform here. So this is the moment you have to run around a bit, stand still, do damage and keep running so that you don't get burned. And eventually one day the boss will die. And this is also the end of the dungeon. Okay, so let's go to the 16th Hall, which is personally my favorite dungeon. It is not the quickest dungeon, it is a very long dungeon, has a lot of adds to defeat, but it's in the end a very cool dungeon. So for the adds you want to focus on blue build, just do a lot of AoE, kite them around, you know, the usual. I personally grind this dungeon a lot solo, because I figured that here the spawn rate of armor pieces, those scalable armor pieces, is quite high from the chests. So without going into detail, this is one of the things that dropped here for me. And around 20 other pieces of those sets, basically. Okay, I guess I'm gonna explain you. So for every armor type, there is scalable armor sets. They can drop theoretically from any mob in the world, from any chest in the world or dungeon. And they are scaled then when they drop to the level of the mob you defeated or the chest you looted. Basically, yeah, the level of the dungeon itself. In this case, this is level 60. Some of those armor pieces are best in slot and are... well, they're not character or account bound when you drop them, so you can basically either sell them or give them to one of your alts. So with that being said, let's go to the first boss, and for that you want to clean out the left side of this first room. So for the boss you want to first basically kill the adds. They are ranged and will do quite some damage if you don't get rid of them. At the same time you also want to kite the boss around. He sometimes stuns you, does like 7k damage and gives you a dot as well, so you want to basically dodge that. Other than that, just don't try to stand into his puddles, keep him slowed, you can slow him, and just grind him down in the blue build. So, we now are on the way to the second boss, and the dungeon is now, instead of filled by orcs, it is filled by orcs which are infected, so Sklopsnag orcs basically. Well, some of those fights are quite, well, challenging, I guess, because you're gonna pull like 7, 8 at the same time. But all you want to do is just keep the low cut upright on them, keep them slowed, and just AoE them away. Come to an intersection where you have to pull a wheel on the left and the right side in a separate room. A funny fight, since you're gonna pull like 8 meals at the same time, so, well, you will really be challenged by your kiting skills here. They are dead, you can pull the first wheel. By the way, you will constantly see like some of those Globsnaga bodies sitting around. If you accidentally step on one of those, it will summon 3 worms that you have to defeat. As of the second room, you want to focus on the archers, because they do quite some damage. The second boss, I just do him in red and burst him away. So the boss will kick you after a while, he will summon some stuff, he will even heal, try to interrupt it as good as possible. Other than that, if it gets a bit tight, then just go in endurance and heal up, but should be fine if you just burst them away in precision. When the boss is dead, we go to the next stage, and the last stage of the 16th hall, which is now filled by a bunch of insects. On the way down, you will basically kill some of those gretbigs, those little bugs. To a bigger room, which is filled with those gretbig queens. With like smaller ones, which disappear when you kill the queen. So this is a cool part in my opinion. I basically stand on top here and try to snipe away the insect queens. After you have killed the one across and 2 below, you have to jump down to reach the 4th one basically. Fifth one, you have to walk up this ramp, pull her, and she will kick you basically down a lot, and then you can kill her. And the last one is just in front of the gate that leads you to the end boss. End boss is just kiting, but important for the challenge mode, don't kill any of those bugs. So AoE damage is, yeah, it's not allowed. Unless you don't care about the challenge, so then you can do whatever you want. Basically just running in a circle, he will eventually light up a quarter of the room with those mushrooms, which then will slow you. Just makes your space for kiting a bit smaller. When the boss is dead, you are allowed to kill the bugs and loot the chests. Would also be the end of the dungeon. And here, during this recording, I actually dropped something pretty nice. So I was kind of surprised with that drop. It's not a set armor, but it's something which I can give my champion. It looks pretty good stat-wise. Well, so looks like we reached the end of the video already. So this was basically the second part of this, video series I've planned about solo Moria dungeons. And there's one part left. So, in the next part, which is the third part and the final part, I will also show you how to beat the Dark Delvings and the Halls of Crafting solo as a hunter on Treebeard at level 60. Well, first of all, if you watched the video until here, then thanks a lot. And yeah, if you want to support me, I'm always happy about a like or even a comment. If you have questions, just ask me in-game, ask me here in the comments. If you want to see more, you can subscribe to the channel, and if you want to see me stream on Twitch, I usually stream in the evening for European time zones. So for the Twitch streams, one thing that I'm going to do now is, in case you need armor, like a specific drop from one of those Moria dungeons, just come to my Twitch chat, hit me up, and I will basically duo the dungeon with you. You can have all the loot that drops for you. With that being said, thanks for watching, have a good night, have a good day, whatever time is it for you, and see you in the next video, when Dark Delvings and Halls of Crafting. Enjoy.